So maybe you can't kill the legendary 5.7-liter Hemi because there is a ton of smoke about this V8 engine making a comeback, especially with our boy Tim back in the driver's seat. Oh, that sounds so good. I don't think the old inline 6 is gonna sound like that. Welcome back, I'm Alex. We're in the shop today, but I gotta be honest, I didn't see this on my bingo card, me making a video about the comeback of the 5.7-liter Hemi in these Ram trucks. I thought for sure that engine was dead as hell. Stellantis seemed pretty hell-bent on funneling money into their EV programs and really had no intention of revamping or updating a V8 engine, so it seems. Well, maybe pigs can fly because there is a ton of rumblings that this 5.7-liter Hemi will make its way back into the Ram 1500 lineup. Robert Miller, who is the co-writer and co-owner of Mopar Insider, believes that it is extremely likely that the 5.7-liter Hemi will be back in the Ram 1500 lineup as early as 2026, which is very exciting. Robert also dropped a video on his channel yesterday talking all about this, and I recommend everyone goes check it out. There's some great information on there. Typically, Mopar Insider, they don't miss when it comes to their sources, so I really believe what Robert has to say. And this isn't really groundbreaking news because the last couple months we've heard a lot about a potential 5.7 Hemi comeback, and it just puts a smile on my face. As you imagine, there is a lot to break down here. Firstly, I want to touch on the Ram 1500 sales figures because in 2024, they were down over double digits in compared to the 2023 Ram 1500 sales. And I would say, in my opinion, that is certainly a driving factor that could potentially see the 5.7 Hemi back into the Ram 1500 platform. I just don't think people were very excited about the new 3-liter Hurricane.
So here's the sales figures for the Ram 1500, and 2024 was not a great year, down 18%. What's interesting, in 2019, this was a fantastic year, sold over 700,000 units for the Ram 1500, and from 2019 to 2024, that is a total drop of 38%, as well as a drop of 264,000 units. Not great. We have to go all the way back up to the housing crash in 2008 to see those type of figures. Interestingly enough, in 2010, with the release of the new 4th gen Ram 1500 and the new 3rd gen Hemi, we start to see some really nice sales figures. The 4th gen Ram was a great selling product for Chrysler Stellantis, and it just seems like the new Hurricane engines are just not getting that same sort of interest or sales bump we saw with the new Hemi. And jumping over to the F-150 sales, we do see that there was a downturn in the market. Ford selling almost 900,000 units in 2019, and then dropping to 834,000 units in 2024. But that is only a 7% drop versus a 38% drop. Back to the Ram trucks. Here's everything charted. You can see we're definitely in the negatives here pretty deeply. And once again, we have to go back to the housing crash to kind of get in that same area. But look at this chart. This is where the Hemi, the new 3rd gen Hemi, was released in 2009. And we can see significant growth along with that new 4th generation of Ram 1500. And well, with the release of the Hurricane, we're just not necessarily seeing that big rebound that we saw back in the early 2010s.
I'd also argue when you take choices away from people like Ram sort of did with this, especially my American friends down south of me, they don't like that. And in my opinion, I've always said this, I think Ram should have offered both the 5.7 Hemi and the 3-liter Hurricane. I think that would have kept the flies off the back of Stellantis because they would have still been offering the classic American V8 engine. I mean, looking at Ford, the majority of the F-150 sales are actually the 3.5-liter EcoBoost as well as the 2.7-liter EcoBoost, but you have the option to get a naturally aspirated, big displacement 5-liter V8 Coyote engine if you want it. And we can look at GM, the same thing. They offer smaller displacement turbocharged engines like the 2.7-liter Turbo Max or even the 3-liter Duramax, but you can also get a 5.3-liter V8 or a 6.2-liter V8 if you want it. for years, the reason why Ram had to discontinue the Hemi engine was because of emissions and EPA regulations. Now, I'm not as familiar with gasoline emission regulations as I am with diesel, but Ram is gonna have to play some kind of gymnastics in order to make this work, and apparently they have done so. Next is the production of the 5.7 Hemi, and this is what really sold me when listening to Robert speak. The Hemis have been made in Mexico for some time now, and that production line has been truly halted. The current 5.7 Hemi that's being put into the Durangos as well as the Ram 1500 Classics are so-called stockpiled 5.7 Hemis because the production line has truly been stopped.
5.7 Hemi had been made at the Saltillo engine plant in Mexico for some time, and well, we can see Stellantis has officially removed the 5.7 Hemi from the products coming out of Mexico.
Robert says, and I really like this, that the smaller 5.7 Hemi is coming home. It'll be produced in Michigan, where it probably should have been produced in the first place. This is the first time in 16 years that Chrysler has actually produced an American V8 in America. Now, Mopar Insider went on to say that this could also be a cost-savings move by the brand and ideally allow Ram to offer a more affordable Ram 1500 pickup truck because the 5.7 Hemi is actually a cheaper engine to produce than the smaller 3-liter twin turbocharged Hurricane engine, and ideally, those cost savings could be passed along to the consumer. Robert says that his sources are telling him that if the 5.7 Hemi does indeed find its way back into the Ram 1500 trucks, that it would only be available for the lower trim levels, something like the Tradesmen as well as the Bighorn, ideally making the lower trim level trucks much more competitive in terms of pricing. Now that could change with demand, but it does seem like Ram is dead set on keeping the 3-liter Hurricane as the top dog engine in these Ram trucks. Does make some sense. They spent a lot of money developing it, more powerful, and well, looking at Ford, their 3.5-liter EcoBoost vastly outsells the bigger displacement V8 engine, the 5-liter Coyote. The big question I had, and I don't think I'm alone on this, is whether or not we're gonna see an updated 5.7 Hemi or if we're gonna see the same 5.7 Hemi that has basically been around since 2009. I don't know for sure, but if I was a betting man, I would say we're probably gonna get the same tried and true 3rd-gen Hemi that's putting down a very respectable 395 horsepower as well as 410 pound-feet of torque. If Ram is indeed bringing back the 5.7 Hemi as a more cost-effective option, I doubt they're looking to spend millions of dollars on research and development, but I could be wrong. Either way, 395 horsepower, 410 pound-feet of torque is still going to be a very competitive engine in the 1500 segment. Looking at the 5-liter Coyote, its figures are basically the same. And in terms of GM, the 5.7 Hemi sits right in between the 5.3 as well as the 6.2. So it will be a very competitive engine in terms of power, even if it doesn't get upgraded. Tim, the current CEO, said that if the 5.7 Hemi does indeed come back, it'll most likely be paired with the e-torque system. Now, I've made a whole separate video about this, and I think the e-torque system is a little bit of a gimmick. However, the mild hybrid system, I think, does give Ram a little bit of brownie points when it comes to the EPA as well as the emission protocols. Now, the new Challengers, it does seem, will not be getting the Hemi V8 engines back, the 5.7 or the larger 6.2. And, well, the first rumblings of the Hemi engine coming back seem to involve the Chrysler muscle cars, but it seems like the Challengers will not be getting a V8 option anytime soon.
So when I say Challenger, I actually mean the new Dodge Charger. Daytona, I thought these cars were the new Challengers, but they're not, and for longtime viewers, this would be no surprise that I am not the sharpest tool in the shed. So when I say Challenger, I actually mean the Dodge Charger Daytona. Sorry, guys.
Robert points out that the new design Challengers, the current V8 engines will not fit in between the strut towers, and it would cost millions of dollars to redesign that, which he just sees Chrysler not doing. So essentially, the V8 engines will not be making a return in his opinion, as it looks like right now the only Hemi engine going back into production is the 5.7 liter, and that 5.7 liter will only be going into the Dodge Durango, the Ram 1500, and maybe, just maybe, the Jeep Grand Cherokee. At least that's what Mopar Insider is suggesting, and as I mentioned earlier, those guys are usually bang on the money. I've always liked the 5.7 Hemi. I owned one for about 5 years. I really liked it, and I think it's a great staple engine in the Ram 1500 trucks. Sort of how like the Cummins engine is a great staple in the Ram HD trucks, and if you were to take away the Cummins engine, you'd more or less be ripping the heart out of these Ram HD trucks, and I think that's sort of what kind of happened with the 5.7 Hemi. I thought from day one it was a mistake for Stellantis to drop the 5.7 Hemi, and they seem to fail to recognize the symbolic importance of the Hemi engines, and they should have made the necessary changes to keep this engine in the Ram 1500 lineup, because now they're sort of stuck with their foot in their mouth, having to retool and put this engine back into production, because it seems like, well, the sales figures have plummeted and people just aren't that excited about the new 3-liter Hurricane, and a lot of people are just on the fence about the engine in general. Whereas if they kept the 5.7 Hemi, I feel like there'd just be much more optimism and continued support of the Ram 1500. Now, I'm sure there are way smarter people at Stellantis than me, but the Ford F-150 is the #1 selling vehicle in America, and what does Ford do? They give people options. In 2011, when Ford dropped the 3.5-liter EcoBoost, they didn't shove it down anyone's throat. In 2015, when the 2.7-liter EcoBoost came out, once again, they didn't shove it down anyone's throat. They gave people options, and they still do. You can still order a 5-liter naturally aspirated V8 Coyote engine in basically any F-150 you want. And I think Ford recognizes that in America, the V8 engine is king and always will be king, and it's not a bad thing to have one as an option, and I think it makes people very happy. And when Ram Stellantis took away that classic American V8 option, I think it just left a little bit of a sour taste in people's mouths. Anyways, I'm very excited about the high likelihood of the 5.7 Hemi returning to the Ram 1500s. We don't necessarily want to put the cart before the horse, but as I mentioned, Mopar Insider seems to be a very trustworthy source, and they rarely get stuff wrong. So I'm a little bit excited. I might even buy a Ram 1500 with the 5.7 Hemi in 2026 if that becomes available. We'll have to see. Let me know what you guys think. Are you excited about the 5.7 Hemi? Have you always thought the 5.7 Hemi was just a piece of shit and you were happy it was in the past? Let me know what you're thinking, because I like reading those comments. Anyways, guys, if you did like the video, don't forget to leave that thumbs up. And if you like fun stuff like this, don't forget to subscribe, because I will be keeping an eye on this Hemi story. I think it's a go, but again, nothing's official. But that's all I got for today, and we'll see you on the next freaking video.